guys, how's it going? It's Richie Rich, Rico Roquan. Pretty Rick is what I call them. Back at it again for another review. This time, I'm gonna be looking to review the sequel to the monstrous smash superhero hit that came out in 2018. Can only possibly be Black Panther, Wakanda por siempre. Oh, no español? Okay, vale. Wakanda forever. Gonna run down like the bit of story, soundtrack, and honestly my final thoughts on this sequel. And does the sequel live up to the first installment of the Black Panther, I could say franchise now, because we have two movies. These characters now have become so ingrained in people's minds. So you're gonna hear my thoughts on this. But before we get on this, definitely like, comment, share, and subscribe. Definitely check me out on social media. All my links will be down below. With that being said, ladies and gents, let's get on to this video. Wakanda Forever that came out this year, 4 years, 4 años after the first movie. That really, as I said, if you go on to that review, I talked about how that movie, the first Black Panther, was such a cultural movement because it was really the first time you saw like a black superhero who had the respect, who had the quality, and they treated it very seriously. It's a comic book film, but it really talks about the struggle of like black people outside of Africa, culture, and even the kind of the politics and the corruptions that go on. So I've always said it's a fantastic movie, one of my favorite Marvel films, hands down, the first Black Panther. The sequel that was already in the works even before Chadwick Boseman had passed away. The idea was to introduce the new villain, especially in the second one. You do see like the scale of this threat is even more bigger, that it's not just directly the protagonist, it's more of the whole Wakanda is under threat of like this invasion. One of the difficulties of especially making a sequel, and not just for this but in any type of movie, if your lead protagonist dies, or like T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, he had just fit the character so well that sometimes you cannot imagine anyone else playing it, the titular role. And I know a lot of people say you can recast Chadwick Boseman, but will it be any as good? Will it be Boseman's portrayal? It's very unclear. But this movie really suffered from not having Chadwick Boseman in this. You really see it from the beginning of the early scenes all the way to the finale. It just feels like there's such a void and missing of Chadwick Boseman. Said like I didn't even know. The funny thing is, one of my good friends in the States, we also were talking about Black Panther 2. At the time when Wakanda Forever was coming out, there was a movie called Woman King starring Viola Davis, John Boyega. From seeing the images, because there was rumblings like they're gonna make a sequel to Black Panther, I was thinking Woman King was gonna be Wakanda Forever from seeing like the publicity shots, and I was like, okay, Viola Davis is not in Wakanda Forever too. So a lot, I don't know how it was for everybody, but I was very kept in the dark with Wakanda Forever. I was like, oh, it's coming out this year. I was just like, yeah, I was so like, because I really wanted to see more. When I saw the first one, it left such a impression on me. I wanted to see more. So the cast, the big one. So majority of the cast that appeared in the first one do appear in this one. I think the only exception is Daniel Kaluuya playing Wakabi, the one who was with T'Challa in the beginning, and he went to the dark side and became with Killmonger. So he's the only one missing. I think everyone pretty much from the first one reprises their roles. Okoye, Danny Gurria, Angela Bassey, of course, Angela Bassey in this. I think if they go to the Oscars next year, she has to be put down for a nomination. Her acting in this is masterful. It's an amazing performance. So she's in here, and her role's more bigger than it was in the first one. You got Winston Duke playing Metha Mbaku, yeah. So he's in pretty much the comic relief in this, like usually the comedic character in this, and he's cool. You always get like a lot of funny laughs in it. But pretty much those are the main characters, the main like supporting characters in the first one appear in this one. You have a new character who actually is the is some girl in the comics. Iron, so it's linked with Iron Man, black chick. So she plays a big part of coming to Wakanda and helping the fight against the invasion. And speaking of invasion, the main villain in this is Namor. Namor, who a lot of people don't know, was one of like the original mutants and like the original Marvel characters, Dane, all the way back to like the original conception of like Marvel comics. And that Namor the Submariner, he was there from the beginning, from the early superheroes like Hulk, Thor, Captain America, you name it, he was there. So it's funny because Namor is a villain, but if you see the comics, in most of it, he's seen as like, you could say like an anti-hero. He's not really like a good guy like Captain America. He's not like a bad like in the comics like Magneto or something. He's not like that. He's always been in between. He wants to protect his people who are under the sea and not let like civilization from people interrupted. So a lot of similarities to Aquaman from there, but he wasn't a villain. But he works in this as a villain because what this movie is, which is very different from the first one, it really is a race of people versus another race of people, and these groups are fighting, from the Wakandans, the African Wakandans, to the ones in the sea who are called Talokans. The Talokans are the ones who are under the sea. Their design is they're azules. They have blue skin tone, and they have this like I think it's like what people use to go underneath and like breathe through there. They have this on their face. So it's a really kind of cool, unique design that you've never really seen. It's really unexpected. I don't know if it came from the comics, I'm not sure, but it was really cool design. So the Talokon people versus the Wakandan people. And it's right off the bat, one of the things I really did with this is, seeing as I am here, is that they used the Mexican ancestry to kind of put it with Namor. So Namor, when he was originally created, he was white as they come. Like a lot of the superheroes at that time, they were mostly just like white. So this one, they put the Mexican ancestry and they made Namor Mexican. And the dude who plays him is Tenoch Huerta. Yeah, so he's a Mexican actor. He has such a name, an Azteca name. So this is one of the first times I've seen him in anything. I believe he appeared in Narcos and a few short films, and there's a big like backstory with like how he's even came through acting to there. You know, I definitely will put some links with that. But he does great as Namor here. He really kind of commands his people, and he has just a very good presence. He had a cool cameo from one of the main, I'll just say the main villain of the first one, Killmonger. Michael B. Jordan actually comes here, reprising his role and that. But yeah, pretty much the cast here pretty much does a terrific job, and it's pretty cool. The story starts off with addressing, and this is something that I probably never have seen like in movies before. They actually address the real life situation. Chadwick Boseman, who died in 2020, it was cancer. They actually kind of inject that inside the Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever, that he did die ultimately to a disease. I believe they changed what the disease was in the movie. They changed that, and it already sets the movie in this kind of a sorrow type of theme, where you see the reaction of like T'Challa is gone, and they have a funeral. Within 5 minutes of the picture, they have the funeral celebrating his death. And also got to mention that the Marvel, if you see the classic Marvel intro, just before the movie begins, it shows just Chadwick Boseman, and it's in quiet. There's no song, it's just silent. So you kind of know what the movie you're getting to when you see an intro and the funeral begins. It's like, okay, all right, it already puts you in the sorrow. Now, because T'Challa's gone, he was the king, the role of Wakanda now has gone back to the queen. It was passed down. From the father, who had passed away. Now, because T'Challa's gone, it's now gone back to the mother. So it was what I believe again. So basically, how it works is like I remember like the Wakandans, like the queen she's at this kind of like the union address, which is speaking to the other head leaders of like France, Asia, different regions across the world, and talking about like how Wakandians will be operating within the world. So she takes the front command of that. So going back, Angela Bassett's character, Queen Ramonda, she's like summoned in this UN meeting, and they're telling that Wakanda needs to share the vibranium because now it's more public, especially from the actions of Killmonger. They believe that they have to share the vibranium, but she declines. She says, no, the vibraniums are only for the Wakandians. Around this to the Talokans, who in this like scene at night, the Talokans invade the ship. The ones who are on board, the ones who are working on discovery under the ocean, they actually kill all of them. And around the same time, Namor actually trespasses through Wakanda. He was actually able, through going through the ocean, he was able to actually find Wakanda. And yeah, he gets a warning pretty much from the Queen and Wakandans that like you need to kind of stay away from them. So he tells them, he says like kind of similar with them, the vibranium has in some way like kind of affected, had a big effect on the Talokan people, and that he wants the vibranium. He wants the scientists. He wants that so he can use for his people. He has his own ways he wants to use it. He said if it doesn't get shared, he's gonna attack. So this is even before one of the earliest beginning. Namor even tells them like, my enemies called me Namor. If they don't comply with the usage of the vibranium, he's gonna come there and attack. So have the introduction to the new character Riri Williams, who basically is a freshman. She's on campus on university. She's someone who again is very intelligent. She has a great powers in scientist. She's a scientist. She's like an undercover scientist that the FBI, the American FBI know, and also the Wakandians know. So the Wakandians actually go to her, Shuri in particular, actually go meet her in the dorm, and they actually try to recruit her, try to get her away before the FBI steal her and, kind of fuck up with her. So as they're trying to get Riri Williams, her character, away, the FBI came, and you really get like this kind of centerpiece of the movie where they're escaping. It's like similar to the chase scene when they're in Asia in the first one, real cool like high-speed chase, and it all ends on the bridge where the Talokan people kind of stop. The Talokan people kind of stop Shuri, Okoye, and I think Riri Williams kind of gets away, but they actually stop them at this time. So on this time, Okoye is actually fighting like one of like the head leaders, like you could say the second in command of the Talokan people, and she gets defeated because they're way too strong. They're better martial arts and more power, and she gets defeated. During this time when Okoye gets defeated, Shuri gets taken away. Shuri basically gets like kidnapped from the Talokan people, and once Okoye has to go back to Wakanda and report that they've now taken the princess. So now that the father, now that T'Challa's gone, Shuri is pretty much like the only one in bloodline to carry on the throne of Wakanda, who can rule Wakanda. So she gets taken, and this enrages Ramonda. Queen Ramonda, Angela Bassett, this enrages her. She delivers this powerful speech of what has happened in the past, Killmonger doing this, T'Challa's gone, you lot listen to me. And she strips Okoye of her general ranking, so she's just now like a common person in Wakanda. So she takes in that. So really, really powerful scene. So at this time when it skips back to now, Shuri's now underneath the ocean. She's in the Talokan city. I'll put the name here. And the more talks about his origins, the reason why he has these powers. It shows a cool flashback of his mother being pregnant. It shows great glimpses of the Yucatan, the pyramids in Mexico, which is amazing. And it talks about Namor's disdain for you could say ocean, the surface dwellers, I believe it calls them. So the people on civilization, they actually one scene it shows that they actually enslaved his people. They enslaved these people there, and they actually cursed Namor during the he gave Namor the name. he actually kind of makes a treaty. He wants them, Namor tells Shuri, he wants the Wakandans and the Talakans to work together so they can kind of face against the people above. So the ones out of Wakanda, just the old civilization from there, you know. But I think Namor doesn't know about the whole Avengers or other Marvel Universe characters. So as like Shuri and Namor, like I wouldn't say they be friends, but everything is cool for a bit. Like Namor showing her around this great part, like in their city underneath the water, and it shows like the amazing and beauties from there. What happens though is, as of course mentioned, Lupita Nyong'o, who again was T'Challa's wife, T'Challa's girlfriend in the first one, she actually comes in. She's sent from the Queen. The Queen actually goes to find her wherever, I don't know if it's Asia. She goes to recruit her to go save Shuri. So she actually gets in. She's actually able to bypass the security and get into the Talokan's city. And once she gets there, she's able to save Shuri and get down, save Shuri and also Dominique, Riri Williams' character. But unfortunately, she actually takes out one of the Talokan people. She actually kills them. She was there. She just took them because it was really a rescue mission. She didn't know what she was gonna cover, and she didn't know Shuri and them had befriended a lot of the Talokan people. So she kills one of them and she escapes with the two young girls. When Namor finds out that they took one of their people, Namor just says straight up, because he was already saying this. He was already saying, if you don't listen to me, I'm gonna attack. He just was waiting for one who comes in. He gives a speech to all these people and he says, yeah, we're gonna go in Wakanda. And I think this was definitely the best scene when the Talokan people, they go and invade Wakanda. They literally fuck this place up. Like, it was a landslide victory. The worst thing about it is the people in Wakanda, they did not see it coming. They did not see it. I think when Shuri came, she didn't think like, oh, they're gonna do this. So when they come, they actually water starts like bursting through their walls, starts all their civilization, water just gets filled out. And the more, he even warned Ramonda, Normanda, Angela Bassey's character, the Queen. He warned her, said, if you don't abide, you don't listen to what I'm saying, if you don't agree, I'm gonna come in and slay you. And the more being a man of his word, he, especially when they come in and they've completely fucked up Wakanda, he has this kind of water arsenal, this water weaponry, like a water grenade. He goes in the water and he takes his water grenade and he throws it on the throne room where the Queen and also Dominique is. And once he throws it, it explodes. Dominique's able to survive, but unfortunately the Queen actually dies. So now, not only T'Challa's gone, now the Queen Mother is gone, and this changes Shuri's kind of mindset, because Shuri, especially if you see her in the first one, even this one, she's a very gentle character. She's very gentle. It's like this is someone who would not hurt a fly. From seeing T'Challa going the first, and then from seeing her Queen Mother going, and then seeing it right there, this enraged her. Enraged her so much that she was saying that she needs to retaliate. And then you really get to the third act of the film, where it's pretty much like the Wakandans versus the Talokan people. Like basically Namor is Shuri has been pissed with Namor, and Shuri believes that she now can become the Black Panther. So that mystic herbs that was in the first one, if you've seen the first one, it was fantastic. Killmonger actually place where all the mystic herbs were to give the power to Black Panther. Killmonger told to burn all of it. He said to burn all of it so there won't be another Black Panther when he's gone. So Shuri, with her scientist expertise, she's able to create a new one, and she's able, with Riri Williams and Lupita Nyong'o, she's able to, they actually give her that mystic potion, and she has a hallucination. And in this hallucination, Eric B. Killmonger actually returns. He returns as a hallucination. He's already gone, he's with his ancestor, and they have a real exchange of where Killmonger talks about like, T'Challa may have beaten me, but I was not wrong for my actions. I was gonna do the best for Wakanda, and you need someone like me to get stuff done. You can't be as noble as T'Challa was. And this actually kind of it kind of like puts into Shuri's mind of that kind of aggressiveness, like do some bad things to you. Sometimes you gotta break some eggs to make an omelet. So Killmonger actually kind of pushes her through that. He actually tells her through that hallucination that, you can say what you want about me, but I got stuff done. Even though it was a momentary victory, it was a victory. So this kind of changes her Shuri's kind of mindset of now, okay, so she actually, what's really cool if you don't see it, when she takes the Black Panther, wants to use, she doesn't use T'Challa's one, she uses Killmonger's one that they keep in that lab, in that Wakandan lab where they are. So really, like the last act. So really, the last act of the film is pretty much like I said. They have a big scene like in the ocean where there's this big boat where all the Wakandans are fighting like the armed guards, the ones with Okoye. Okoye gets a new suit, all that, and also Dominique Riri Williams. She has this kind of Iron Man female version suit where she's kicking ass there. So they're fighting on the boat, and then lastly, Shuri Black Panther is fighting Namor on the beach. So at this time, Namor already lost his powers because he kind of lost his like supernatural powers because of he needs water, of course, because he's like a water mutant. They actually in the ship they actually kind of drenched him. They made a lot of heat, so he needed to have water. So she has the advantage because they're fighting on the shore and not on the water. And Shuri successfully defeats Namor. He actually clops one of his like flying wings that Namor uses to fly, which, gosh, that must have hurt. And then she's able to defeat him by blowing up like one of the ships. That ship that came crashing down, she blows it, and it kind of like incinerates the back of Namor, but it doesn't kill him. And just about as Shuri, as she grabs this bar, because she gets like stabbed, Namor was gonna fucking kill her. But she survived just because of the power of the Black Panther. She gets that same bar that Namor studied to her, and she was gonna put that coup de grace, the final blow. As she was about to do this, she gets these, again, from, you could say, hallucinations or these visions from her mother, the Queen, saying like, don't do this, show him who you are. You're better than this. You're not gonna be from vengeance. And she ultimately decides not to do it, and you see Namor and Shuri kind of tell their people that, okay, we're now going to be working together. There's no need to continue fighting, and they both go to their respective places. So pretty much like the villain doesn't die in this movie. And the final scene you get when everything is well is Shuri actually makes a trip to, I believe it's either Dominican Republic or Brazil, a Latin American country, and she goes to this part of the beach, and she's still having visions of her brother dying, T'Challa. And yeah, the film ends. They have a cool post-credit scene where Nyong'o shows that she has a son, and surprise, surprise, it turns out the son was the former king's son. T'Challa's had a son. He has a son. He didn't know, of course, he didn't know about it, but yeah, he had a son with it, and that's pretty much the end of Wakanda por Siempre. So like the music in this, I would definitely say, if we talk about just the score of the music, it definitely is a different tone. It definitely feels like a more sorrow, because again, they start the movie with the funeral, and then the mother passes away, and then even when you get to the end scenes, so it's a lot of like sorrow, kind of somber kind of music. The singles that you did have from here is you had No Woman No Cry, which was like a term cover from Bob Marley. You had Lift Me Up. This was one of the big singles from Rihanna, which is a real catchy tune. I believe it plays in the credits and also there. And you also got, and these ones were done by the Def Jam recording. So it's a real cool album. I do miss like Kendrick Lamar's like music. As I said, those tunes when he went, they had that scene where they made Claw inside that bar and casino. I really do miss that Kendrick Lamar and The Weeknd's involvement in the album. So I do miss that. But I feel the music in here, it definitely suits this kind of movie than, of course, the other one, where the first movie was more upbeat. This one was very sorrow, dealing with death and like passing the torch more so than the first one. So I believe in that sense the music fits this one more better. Alright, so yeah, like my final thoughts on Wakanda por Siempre. I think it's a good movie. Yeah, I've seen again a lot of people's kind of talks on this. It's a good movie, but it's not a fun movie, and I'll tell you why. what happened with Chadwick Boseman in 2020 was so painful. And keep in mind, this was the same year that Kobe went. So just dealing with those losses, man, it's just tough. And to even think about making another Black Panther, you're sometimes looking like, where's Chadwick? So I think this movie was already kind of, I'm not saying doomed to fail, but it had a lot to follow up with how good the first one was. There is a big void missing in Wakanda Forever. I personally, if it was me, because I do get it, it's a business and it's money. Just to respect Chadwick Boseman, I don't think they needed to make a sequel. I do get it's a business and like you're gonna see more of these, all of these superheroes, even Ant-Man has a fucking franchise in Marvel. So why can't like one of the important Marvel characters have sequels and more sequels? Of course, it was just very hard after seeing like they say like very hard to see like what you could do after this sudden passing, which is crazy. And that goes into my next point with like Shuri, played by Letitia Wright. Letitia Wright is from United Kingdom. It's not that Shuri Letitia Wright is a bad actress, because I think she does good. I think it's just in the first one. The problem with problem with her performance in this is she was a supporting character, and Letitia Wright was behind a lot of the actors in the first one. She was behind Michael B. Jordan. She was behind Okoye. She was behind the Queen, Angela Bassett, Forest Whitaker. Oh my gosh, Lupita Nyong'o, who appeared in. She was probably one of the last characters of the supporting characters in the first one. For her to go to 0, really to 100, to put her in the main central thing, I think honestly it was a mistake. I honestly, after watching it now back twice, I don't think she should have been the main central character. It's big shoes to fill. And I'm not saying like, okay, it had to be another guy that has to replace that has to fill the shoes of Black Panther. It just shouldn't have been her. The way how Angela Bassett is, even forget about age, I think she would have even been better in this because her performance is gold in this. Even Danny Garia, Okoye, she could have been in this. She possibly should have been the new Black Panther because of the experience and even from the fighting ability. Because the thing with this is it's just sometimes the believability, because she becomes the Black Panther way at the end. Unlike the first one where it's like the Black Panther is introduced right beginning. You get that cool scene in the forest where Black Panther is saving the captives with Okoye and Lupita Nyong'o. You have that in the beginning, so you're really introduced to the superhero in the beginning. This doesn't come into like 2 hours into the movie of when she becomes a Black Panther, and there's no training, there's no kind of a montage of her getting ready. She just wears the suit and now she can fight equally with Namor. And I do get it's the suit that gives her the power, but it just doesn't make any sense. So Namor has his mutant powers, he has this experience, but this girl, I don't even think is 20 yet, can fight evenly Namor. I just didn't believe it. It just didn't believe it of seeing that scene on the beach at the end. So I think that's what really downgrades this movie. It's just the protagonist. Because I said like a lot of people were saying they should have recast T'Challa. They should have made another guy who could fit in that role. I think you can do that in animation if it's voices, but I don't know if the actual portrayal, because Chadwick Boseman did a great job. If it was me personally, I just would have not made another movie, because when you really look at it, it wasn't strong enough to make a new film. If you're gonna make a second one, do what you can do to make it better than the first one. But it wasn't necessary. If we go into the villain, Namor compared to Killmonger, I think Namor's a cool villain, but I just don't think he connects to it as much as Killmonger did in the first one. The Killmonger, what was so compelling about Killmonger is he wasn't wrong, and where his where his rage came from and all of this was the corruption in the family. That they killed his dad and he had no explanation. For almost 30 years, he grew up with this rage that he was beyond talking, because why couldn't have someone taken him? Why couldn't have someone said, this is why we killed your father? He had stolen the vibranium. this is why we had to go this way, but no one told him. So you could kind of understand him, who is African descent but is outside. You could feel his rage. You could relate to him so much so. So even when he died, you're like, you really want to see Killmonger again. And that's why, from fan reception, he even appeared in this one. You know, with Namor, again, they have the Mexican heritage that he has in this, which is cool. But I just don't think he connects to the struggle with the Wakandan. Like, he didn't grow up hating the Queen or hating the Shuri or hating T'Challa. Like, since someone had done something bad to them, so he connected. It just was really that, like, I want this, I am the vibranium. If you're not going to comply, we're just going to attack you. And it just feels like it's more of just these people fighting, like these groups, the Talokan people and Wakandans, rather than this kind of vendetta, like I'm getting revenge because you did this to me in the past. Like, I know Namor had, Namor's people were slaves, but it wasn't the Wakandans. These were like the actual colonizers and that. So I just feel it doesn't connect as well as the Killmonger's villains, you know. So that's probably the big things. It's the protagonist and also the antagonist of the movies. T'Challa and Killmonger is on another level from Shuri and more, and I just don't think they can carry the weight. And I'd probably say the third final thing that I definitely think is the time. The first Black Panther was only just over an hour. I think like an hour and a half, maybe just a bit more. But it was necessary. Like in the first Black Panther, it never feels like scenes drag or so much. In Black Wakanda Forever, I remember watching this in the cinema, and I was like, man, when is this gonna end? Like there was times I was yawning. I was just like sometimes checking on my phone, but it drags way too much, and the story doesn't have enough weight for it to drag. It doesn't have that epic gravity of level that the first one does, and the way this one is almost 3 hours is ridiculous. So I don't think I'll watch this as much as I'll watch the first one, you know. So but yeah, I would say if just talking about the bad points, I think the good points is it is cool to see the Wakandan sort of culture again, like seeing in Africa, seeing these African people fight, and again, like the culture. Like I think the culture is cool. It was nice seeing the culture from Latin America, the Mexican culture, seeing the pyramid in Yucatan, seeing them using their language. That part was cool, and I think altogether it was shot well. I think the cinematography was great. I think even the third act, I've heard people say that the final act fight in this, I think, was more better than the one in the first one. The first one, when Killmonger and T'Challa are fighting underneath where that train is passing through, it was all CGI. In this one, I think the fight was more straight up between Namor and Shuri. Like I said, it was a more better presented fight, but just unbelievable because she had no training. She was young, inexperienced. I don't think she's ever even thrown a kick, so it's just unbelievable. But other than that, I think it's good. Yeah. So yeah, guys, that's my thoughts on Wakanda Forever. Who would I recommend this for? I honestly don't think, and this is just being real, if you've seen the first Black Panther, I don't think it's necessary to see this. I think the first Black Panther is this real kind of cool contained story. Like you have the start, the middle, and the end. You got everything's resolved in the first movie. So this, it doesn't really feel as an extension because it changes so much. A lot of characters are introduced and some of it doesn't really go too well. Like, are you gonna see no more in another Marvel movie? I don't know. Are you gonna see the Talokan people in another Marvel movie? It remains to be seen. So I just think from that side. But I mean, if you really just like it for Wakanda in general, I can really recommend this movie to you. You know, so that's my thoughts on 2022's Marvel Cinematic Movie Wakanda Forever. Please put your comments in the description. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you believe the first one? Do you believe it's better than the first one? How did you think of the protagonist and the antagonist in this role, Namor and Shuri? And just put that all in the comments below. And yeah, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media. And always remember, it's not update your wallet this time, but it's Wakanda, of course, the Emperor.